Joe Franklin was walking his dog on his farm in Nebraska when a bright light appeared above him. Before he could react, both he and his golden retriever were lifted into the air. He tried to scream, but no sound came out. The last thing he remembered was a strange humming noise before everything went black. At the same time in Oregon, Susan Miller was closing her veterinary clinic for the night. She stepped into the parking lot and noticed an odd glow in the sky. She looked up, curious, then felt a strange tingling sensation across her skin. The keys dropped from her hand as she vanished. Ethan Harris was studying late in his Florida dorm room when his laptop screen began to flicker. He thought it was just another power surge until the entire room filled with a greenish light. He stood up in alarm, but his feet left the floor. He reached for his phone to call for help, but it was too late. In Texas, Lisa Bennett was finishing her shift at a construction site. She was tired and looking forward to going home. As she walked to her truck, she saw what looked like a shooting star, but it grew larger instead of disappearing. The last thing she remembered was a feeling like static electricity all over her body. All four of them woke up in strange transparent boxes. The walls were clear but solid. The floors were soft and bouncy. Each enclosure had different objects inside. Joe's had what looked like exercise equipment. Susan's had shelves of colorful containers. Ethan's had odd-shaped items that reminded him of books. Lisa's had blocks and tools, but nothing like she'd ever seen before. Outside their boxes, tall creatures moved around. They had 4 arms and skin that changed colors. Their heads were large with 3 eyes, 1 in the middle of their forehead and 2 where human eyes would be. They made clicking and whistling sounds to each other. One creature approached the boxes. Its skin was purple with gold patterns. It wore something like a uniform with symbols on it. This was Science Director Vextor, though the humans didn't know his name yet. Vextor clicked to another alien. The specimens appeared to be awake and alert. Excellent. Begin recording their behaviors for the domestication database. The other alien, with blue-green skin, responded, "Yes, Director. Should we start the communication protocols?" "Not yet, Nixala. Let them adjust to their new environments first. Remember, they are primitive creatures. Too much stimulation might damage their simple nervous systems," Vextor said. Nixala moved closer to Susan's enclosure. "This one shows signs of higher intelligence. Look at how it examines its surroundings." Vextor made a sound like laughter. All creatures explore new territories. Do not mistake basic survival instincts for intelligence. In another part of the ship, Kevin Wright from Chicago woke up in a larger enclosure. His space had more objects and comfortable furniture. A group of aliens watched him with all 3 eyes blinking rapidly. "This is our prime specimen," Vextor told the group, "selected for its perfect average measurements and behaviors. It will be the centerpiece of our exhibition." The aliens didn't realize that their specimens could hear a translation of everything they said through small devices implanted behind their ears. The devices were meant to help train the humans, but they gave the captives valuable information instead. Kevin looked around his fancy cage and whispered, "Where am I? What's happening?" To his surprise, he heard a voice from somewhere in the wall. "You're on a spaceship. We all are. I'm Nicole. Nicole Summers from Michigan. There are more of us. Stay calm and play dumb. They think we're animals." Kevin's heart raced, but he kept his face blank when the aliens looked at him. He pretended to be confused and scared, which wasn't hard because he was, but knowing there were other humans gave him hope. Vextor turned to his team. Begin phase 1 of domestication. Within 1 rotation cycle, these humans will be eating from our hands and performing simple tricks for rewards. How wrong he was. The next day, the aliens moved all the humans to larger areas they called habitat zones. These zones were meant to look like places on Earth, but something was very wrong with each one. Joe found himself in a space with fake grass and obstacle courses. The walls had paintings of tanks and weapons. There were dummies made to look like targets. The aliens clearly thought all military people spent their time training and fighting. Human male specimen 1. Demonstrate combat rituals. An alien voice said over speakers. Joe looked around, confused. A small door opened, and a robot came out holding what looked like a stick with padding. Joe understood they wanted him to fight. He decided to play along. He took the stick and hit the robot a few times. The aliens watching him made excited whistling sounds. Susan's new space looked like a hospital room from a cartoon. The tools were all wrong. There were bottles with fake labels and machines that did nothing. Every few hours, a sick alien animal was sent into her space. They expected her to heal it using the strange tools. Susan carefully checked the first animal, a 6-legged creature with fur. It had a cut on one leg. She cleaned and bandaged the wound using supplies she found. The aliens seemed pleased but confused. They had expected her to dance around the animal or use crystals they had placed in the room. Ethan was put in a room with tables and screens. It looked like someone had tried to make a school but had only seen pictures of one. The aliens gave him puzzles meant for children. When he solved them quickly, they gave him harder ones. They recorded everything he did. The young one learned simple tasks faster than expected. An alien said to another, "Perhaps it can be trained for entertainment purposes." Lisa's zone was the strangest. It had piles of blocks and materials, but they were made of substances she had never seen before. Some were light as air but strong as steel. Others changed shape when touched. The aliens wanted her to build things, but their instructions made no sense. "Place the blue square on the red circle to create harmony," a voice commanded. Lisa figured out they wanted her to make patterns that looked nice to them. She started building and soon had created a tower that impressed the aliens. In his special area, Kevin was given the most attention. His space looked like a mix of a fancy hotel room and a zoo exhibit. There were comfortable places to sit, real human food, and even some books. But everything was behind clear walls so the aliens could watch him all the time. "This specimen will be perfect for the exhibition," Vextor told important visitors. "Notice how it uses tools to eat instead of its hands. Very trainable." Kevin pretended not to understand anything. He acted confused by simple objects like mirrors. The aliens thought this was normal human behavior. When they weren't looking, he explored every inch of his space, looking for weaknesses. Meanwhile, Nickel found a way to communicate with others. The air vents in each habitat connected to a main system. She could whisper into them, and her voice would carry to the others. "Everyone listen," she said one night when the ship was quiet. "Learn everything you can about your spaces and the aliens. Watch their patterns. When do they feed you? When do they leave? We need to know everything if we're going to escape." The humans started to gather information. Joe counted the guards and noted when they changed shifts. Susan studied the alien animals to learn about jocularity biology. Ethan memorized the layout of the ship from what he could see through his windows. Lisa tested the materials in her room to find one strong enough to make tools. Every night, they whispered their discoveries to each other through the vents. The aliens had no idea that their simple pets were building a detailed plan for escape. Vextor was pleased with the progress. See how quickly they adapt. Soon, they will be ready for training. Prepare for Phase 2 of domestication. His assistant, Nixala, looked worried. "Director, I've noticed some unusual patterns in their behavior. When they think we aren't watching." "All new specimens test boundaries," Vextor interrupted. "It is normal and expected. Continue the conditioning program." As he walked away, the humans watched and waited. Weeks passed on the alien ship. The humans did what the jocularity asked them to do. They followed orders, performed the expected tasks, and appeared to be adapting well to captivity. The aliens were pleased with this progress. Joe ran through the obstacle courses in his habitat without complaint. He did push-ups when ordered and practiced with the training weapons they gave him. The aliens rewarded him with better food and more comfortable sleeping arrangements. What they didn't know was that he was getting stronger every day, learning their technology, and testing the limits of his enclosure. The military specimen is responding well to discipline. An alien guard reported to Vextor. It follows commands with minimal resistance. Susan treated the strange animals they brought her. She learned which medicines worked for which creatures. The aliens were impressed when she successfully healed a valuable pet belonging to a high-ranking official. They gave her more advanced tools, not realizing she was studying alien anatomy through the animals, looking for weaknesses. The healing human shows remarkable adaptability, Nixela noted. It seems to understand biological systems intuitively. Vextor nodded but added, simple pattern recognition, nothing more. All creatures have basic survival skills. Ethan solved increasingly complex puzzles. The aliens thought they were testing his limits, but he deliberately made mistakes, sometimes to hide how smart he really was. When they weren't watching closely, he studied the alien writing on the screens and began to understand their language. Lisa built beautiful structures with the strange materials. The aliens thought she was just following their instructions, but she was secretly testing which materials could be used as tools or weapons. She created hidden compartments in her larger buildings where she stored useful items. Kevin had the hardest job, always being watched. He had to be very careful. He acted fascinated by simple objects like spoons and mirrors. He pretended not to understand how doors worked. The aliens found this amusing and brought important visitors to watch him. See how it struggles with basic technology, Vextor would say. Yet it can be taught simple tasks through repetition. When alone, Kevin whispered detailed reports about the visitors into the air vents, helping the others understand the ship's command structure and which aliens were most important. Nickel became the central point of their resistance. Each night, she collected information from everyone and helped form a plan. Through the vents, they created a map of the ship and learned about Jocularity society. The guards changed 3 times during what they consider a day. Joe reported one night, "The third shift is always smaller than the others. The material from my blue blocks is strong enough to make tools." Lisa whispered, "I've made several small knives." "I figured out part of their language," Ethan added, "enough to understand basic commands on their control panels." The aliens have a physical weakness, Susan shared. The center eye is extremely sensitive. Even a slight touch causes them severe pain. Nickel took all this information and slowly developed an escape plan. "We need to wait for the right moment," she told the others. "They're planning something big, a special event. That might be our chance." Meanwhile, Vextor was delighted with their progress. In a meeting with ship leaders, he proudly displayed videos of the humans performing their tasks. "As you can see, domestication is proceeding exactly as planned," he said. "The specimens have accepted their new reality and are responding well to training." Science Officer Nick Sala again raised concerns. "Director, I've noticed unusual communication patterns among the specimens. They seem to be coordinating their behaviors across habitats." Vextor dismissed this. "Impossible. Their vocalizations are simple responses to stimuli, not actual language. You attribute too much intelligence to these creatures." Nixala wasn't convinced but didn't argue further. She decided to watch the humans more carefully on her own. The humans continued their act, appearing docile and cooperative while secretly preparing for rebellion. They just needed the right opportunity. That opportunity was coming sooner than they expected. The Jocularity were preparing for what they called the domestication ceremony, and all the humans would be brought together for the first time. The Jocularity began to notice strange things happening on the ship. Items went missing from storage rooms. Security cameras stopped working in certain areas. The humans were acting differently, but in ways that were hard to explain. Junior researcher Zoltan brought his concerns to Vextor. "Director, I believe the humans may be more intelligent than we thought. Look at these behavior patterns." He showed Vextor a series of recordings. Joe was doing his usual exercises, but Zoltan pointed out how he always did them in a way that let him see the guard rotations. Susan seemed to be healing animals, but she was spending extra time examining their body structures. Ethan appeared to be solving puzzles, but his eyes kept moving to the alien writing on the walls. "These are not random behaviors," Zoltan explained. "There is purpose behind them." Vextor laughed. "You are new to specimen management, Zoltan. All creatures explore their surroundings. It is basic survival instinct, nothing more." "But sir, items from Lisa's habitat are disappearing. We give her 20 building blocks, but later find only 18. She is hiding toys, like any pet might do," Vextor said. "Increase the security checks if you are concerned." The aliens added more guards and cameras. They searched the habitats more often, but they never found the missing items. Lisa had created hiding spots in the walls and floors that the aliens couldn't detect. Joe had been making weapons from exercise equipment. He had bent metal bars into sharp points and hidden them inside his sleeping mat. He had also been studying the guards, learning when they were most tired or distracted. Susan had created medicines from the supplies in her habitat. Some would heal, but others could cause sleep or confusion if used correctly. She kept these hidden in empty food containers. Ethan had memorized hundreds of alien words and symbols. He could now understand much of what the aliens said to each other. He knew the ship's layout and which areas were most important. Kevin was having the hardest time. The aliens watched him constantly. He needed to distract them so the others could work more freely. He began acting strangely, doing things the aliens had never seen before. He would stack all his furniture in odd towers. He would make strange sounds and movements. The aliens found this fascinating. They brought more visitors to watch Kevin's bizarre behaviors. While they were distracted by Kevin, they paid less attention to the other humans. "The prime specimen is developing interesting habits," Vextor told his superiors. "We believe this is part of their natural entertainment rituals." Nixala was not convinced. "Director, I think it may be creating a distraction deliberately." Today, when it was building one of those odd towers, 3 security systems on the lower deck stopped working. "Coincidence?" Vextor insisted. "These are separate systems." One night, Nickel gathered everyone's latest information through the vent system. "The ceremony is in 2 days," she whispered. "They'll bring us all to the main exhibition hall. Every important Shakalari will be there." "I've made enough weapons for everyone," Lisa replied quietly. "And I've figured out how their door locks work. I can read their control panels now," Ethan added. "I can find us a way off this ship. I've made something to blind their center eye temporarily," Susan said. "It won't hurt them permanently, but will give us an advantage." "Their guard shifts change right before the ceremony," Joe reported. "There will be a 5-minute gap in security." Kevin's voice came last. "I'll keep creating distractions. Today they were so busy watching me that they left a control panel unlocked. I saw the ship's destination, a planet called Jackal. That must be their home world." Nickel took all this information and finalized their plan. "Everyone be ready. When we're all together at the ceremony, we'll only have one chance." Meanwhile, Vextor was dealing with technical problems throughout the ship. Security systems were malfunctioning. Door locks were opening randomly. Supply inventories were showing missing items. "Find the source of these issues immediately," he ordered his staff. "The ceremony must proceed perfectly. The High Council will be watching." He had no idea that the simple humans were about to show him just how wrong he had been. The day of the domestication ceremony arrived. The main exhibition hall of the ship was decorated with colorful lights and strange symbols. Important Shakalari from across their empire came to witness the event. They wore fancy clothes with glowing patterns and jewels. Vextor stood proudly at the center stage, practicing his speech. "Today we present the newest addition to our collection of domesticated species, humans from planet Earth, now tamed and ready to serve as companions to worthy homes." Workers rushed around, fixing last-minute details. Security guards checked every corner of the room. Vextor wanted everything to be perfect. "Director, we have another system failure in Section 12, a crew member reported." "Fix it immediately," Vextor snapped. The High Council members will be here in 1 hour. Everything must work perfectly. In their habitats, the humans prepared themselves. Joe hid small weapons in his clothes. Susan tucked away vials of her special medicines. Ethan memorized the path to the ship's control room one last time. Lissa kept her lock-picking tools in her sleeves. Kevin practiced looking confused and harmless. Guards came to each habitat to prepare the humans for the ceremony. They put special collars on each person. The collars didn't hurt, but they had blinking lights that the aliens seemed to think were important. Remain calm and follow instructions, a guard told Joe as he was led from his habitat. Perform well, and you will be given to a good home. Joe nodded and acted scared. Inside, his heart raced with determination, not fear. The humans were brought to a holding room near the exhibition hall. For the first time since their capture, they could see each other face to face. They didn't speak or make obvious signals. They had planned everything through their vent conversations. A look or a small nod was enough. Nickel was the last to arrive. She gave each person a tiny nod, confirming the plan was still on. Kevin would give the signal when the time was right. In the exhibition hall, the ceremony began. Hundreds of wealthy Jacqueleri sat in floating chairs arranged in circles. Vexter stepped onto the main platform and raised all 4 of his arms for silence. Honored guests, High Council members, thank you for joining us for this special occasion. Vextor began. The Domestication Division has successfully tamed yet another species. Humans are remarkably adaptable creatures from a small planet in the Milky Way galaxy. A large screen behind him showed images of Earth, mostly focused on zoos, farms, and pet shops. The aliens had completely misunderstood human society. These creatures lived primitive lives on their world. Vextor continued. But under our guidance, they have learned to perform useful tasks and provide entertainment. They make excellent household companions and status symbols. The crowd made pleased whistling sounds. One by one, Vextor brought out the humans to demonstrate their training. Susan showed how she could heal small injuries. Lisa built a small structure with blocks. Ethan solved puzzles quickly. Joe performed combat moves that impressed the crowd. And now, Vextor announced proudly, our prime specimen, the perfect example of human domestication. Kevin was led to the center of the stage. He looked around with wide eyes, pretending to be amazed by the lights and sounds. The crowd laughed at his apparent confusion. This specimen has been selected for its ideal characteristics, Vextor explained. Notice the perfect balance of curiosity and obedience. It can perform simple tasks when instructed. Vextor handed Kevin a simple puzzle. Kevin pretended to struggle with it, then solved it very slowly. The crowd seemed delighted by this performance. After the demonstration, you may submit your applications to adopt one of these fascinating creatures, Vextor told the audience. Only the most prestigious families will be selected. As Vextor continued his speech, Nickel caught Kevin's eye from where she stood with the other humans. Kevin gave her a tiny nod. It was time. Kevin dropped the puzzle and stood straight. He looked directly at Vextor and spoke in perfect Jacqueleri language. Thank you for bringing us all together. It saves us the trouble. Vextor froze in shock. The audience went silent, and then chaos erupted. The moment Kevin spoke in the Jacqueleri language, the plan sprang into action. Joe pulled out the weapons he had hidden and tossed them to the others. Susan threw small vials that burst into clouds of gas, causing nearby guards to fall asleep instantly. Impossible, Vextor shouted, his skin turning pale yellow with shock. How can it speak our language? The wealthy Jacqueleri in the audience began to panic. They had come to see tame pets, not creatures that could think and plan. Some ran for the exits while others froze in confusion. Joe moved quickly, leading an attack on the main guards. His military training made him a skilled fighter, even against aliens with 4 arms. He used their surprise against them, taking down 3 guards before they could even react. Lock the main doors, he shouted to Ethan, who was already running toward a control panel. Ethan reached the panel and typed commands using the alien symbols he had memorized. The large doors to the exhibition hall slammed shut, trapping the Jacqueline inside with them. Then he disabled the alarm systems. Communications blocked. Ethan called out. They can't call for help. Lisa used her tools to remove her collar, then quickly helped the others remove theirs. These were tracking us, she explained. Now they can't find us if we separate. Nickel took charge of the overall plan. Lisa and Ethan, get to the ship controls. Susan and Joe, secure this room. Kevin, come with me. We need to find the other captive species. The Jacqueline were completely unprepared for the human attack. They had never seen their pets as a threat. Guards tried to stop them, but Susan's special medicines made many of them too dizzy or sleepy to fight effectively. Vextor was stunned as he watched his perfect ceremony turn into a disaster. Stop them, he screamed at his security team. How is this happening? They are just simple animals. A guard captain approached him. Sir, the humans have disabled our weapon systems. They seem to know our ship better than we expected. Impossible, Vextor insisted, even as he watched Lisa open a secure door using codes she shouldn't have known. Meanwhile, Ethan and Lisa fought their way to the ship's control room. The few guards they encountered were easily overwhelmed. Lisa's knowledge of the door systems let them bypass security, and Ethan's understanding of the alien language helped them navigate. Here it is, Ethan said when they reached the main control center. Now we just need to figure out how to fly this thing. Lisa looked at the complex control panels. It can't be harder than operating a crane. Let's see what these buttons do. In another part of the ship, Nicole and Kevin found the holding areas for other alien species. There were dozens of different creatures, all captured from various planets for the Jacqueline's collection. We're freeing you, Kevin told them, using gestures when language failed. Come with us if you want to escape. Some of the creatures were frightened, but others understood and joined them. Soon they had a group of diverse aliens working together against their captors. Back in the exhibition hall, Joe and Susan had secured the area. The wealthy Jacqueline were huddled in a corner, their skin changing colors rapidly with fear. The guards were either unconscious from Susan's medicines or tied up with materials Joe had found. What do we do with them? Susan asked, looking at the Jacqueline. We don't hurt them, Joe said firmly. We're not like them. We just need to keep them contained until we can take control of the ship. Vextor had been captured and sat bound to his own ceremonial chair. He stared at the humans with a mixture of fear and disbelief. How? He kept asking. How did simple animals plan this? Susan knelt in front of him. That was your first mistake. We were never animals to be domesticated. On our planet, we're the ones who do the domesticating. Joe's voice came through a communication device Lisa had modified. Nickel, we've secured the exhibition hall. How's your progress? We'd found at least 20 other species being held captive, Nickel replied. We're bringing them to the main deck. How are Ethan and Lisa doing with the controls? They've taken the bridge, Joe said with a smile. Looks like we're about to become the new owners of a spaceship. 3 days later, the humans had completely taken control of the Jacqueline ship. Ethan and Lisa figured out how to operate the navigation systems. They were heading toward Earth, bringing along the other freed species who wanted to go home. Vextor sat in a holding cell, once used for new animal specimens. The walls that had seemed so solid were now keeping him inside. Nicole and Kevin came to speak with him. I don't understand, Vextor said, his skin a dull gray color showing his depression. How did you do this? You were just simple creatures. Nicole shook her head. That's where you were wrong from the start. Humans are not simple. We survived on our planet because we can think, plan, and work together. But our scans showed no advanced technology on much of your planet, Vextor argued. Technology isn't the only measure of intelligence, Kevin explained. Our ability to adapt and overcome challenges is what makes us dangerous when threatened. In the control room, Ethan had learned enough of the ship's systems to access the Jacqueline database. He discovered something shocking. They'd been doing this for centuries, he told the others when they gathered for a meeting. The Jacqueline have domesticated species from over 50 planets. Some are kept as pets, others as workers. None are treated as equals. Joe looked at the star map, showing all the planets the Jacqueline have visited. We need to help these other species too. We will, Susan promised. But first, we need to make sure Earth is safe. Lisa had been studying the ship's weapons systems. They were planning to take more humans. There are 5 more ships heading to Earth right now. The humans knew they had to warn their planet. They sent a message toward Earth using the ship's powerful communication system, hoping someone would receive it and understand. Meanwhile, Nickel organized the freed aliens into groups based on their skills. Some could help repair the ship. Others knew about Jacqueline society and could provide valuable information. One small furry creature with 6 eyes turned out to be a brilliant navigator from a planet called Cindy. It helped Ethan plot the fastest route home. Kevin spent time talking with Vextor, learning more about the Jacqueline Empire. Your people have never faced real resistance, have they? He asked. Never, Vextor admitted. Most species we collect are peaceful. They accept their place after initial resistance. Humans are different, Kevin said. On our planet, we fought each other for thousands of years. We don't give up easily. As they approached Earth, they detected a Jacqueline scout ship already in orbit. Using their new knowledge of Jacqueline technology, they sent a false message ordering the scout ship to leave immediately. Potential domestication targets showing unusual aggression. Return to base for new instructions, Ethan wrote in perfect Jacqueline language. The scout ship left, buying them more time. When they reached Earth orbit, the humans faced a difficult decision. They couldn't just land a massive alien ship without causing panic. Instead, they used a smaller shuttle to return to Earth with evidence of the alien threat. 6 months later, Earth had changed dramatically. Using reverse-engineered Jacqueline technology, humans built defensive systems around the planet. The knowledge from other alien species helped them advance their science by decades in just months. When a Jacqueline ambassador ship finally approached Earth to establish formal relations, they were shocked to find humans waiting for them, armed with their own technology. Joe, Susan, Ethan, Lisa, Nicole, and Kevin stood together as the ambassador landed. They had been chosen to represent humanity because of their experience. The Jacqueline ambassador stepped out, nervous and uncertain. His skin shifted through anxious color patterns. "Welcome to Earth," Nickel said calmly. "We are ready to discuss terms as equals, not as pets." The ambassador looked at the humans with new respect and fear. Behind them stood representatives from a dozen formerly captive species who had chosen to ally with humans. "The Jacqueline High Council sends greetings," the ambassador said carefully. "We wish to apologize for our misunderstanding." Kevin smiled. "Let's be clear about one thing," he said. "Humans don't domesticate easily. In fact, it's usually the other way around." The ambassador nodded slowly, finally understanding the truth. The species they had tried to keep as pets had become their most formidable equals in the galaxy.